and in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
You are not content with the stories somebody's lives come. Be my victim.
Through watching scenes of violence, through watching scenes of transgression, through watching scenes of horror. There's an enormous amount of sort of abattoiral excess.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. This is the 89th episode of Double Feature Horror Show. And I hope, well, this will be an interesting one. I don't expect everyone to have done the homework for this. This is us being bizarrely topical, bizarrely current, and covering a film which is only just out in cinemas. It came out on Friday, on the 2nd of December. It's not something we usually do, being up to date. We don't aim for that on this channel, you know, but it's a nice contrast. We're getting some variety in there. You know, last week we covered a film from 1997, David Lynch's Lost Highway, very deep symbology, very in-depth interpretation you can do of that. Violent Night is a little different. But that is no bad thing. That is no bad thing. As you all know, folks, that crime guy can't be with us tonight. He is coming back in the new year. But I do have a fantastic guest here, Fox Akimbo. Fox, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on. Let's talk about the movie. I'm quite excited for this.
I'm chuffed. I have been, we've been in chatting, and I've been, prodding you, hey, have you watched any Hitchcock? Any Hitchcock movies you've liked? And then I've ended up getting you on for Violent Night. Something's gone wrong.
I mean, I quite enjoy a range. I think, you know, I do love a nice, deep, symbolic movie as much as the next person. But every now and then, I just need something that's, you know, a bit more fun and kind of mind-numbing, but still entertaining, really. For I guess a movie like this, a movie like Violent Night. Yeah,
it's almost a palate cleanser, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah, I do need that every now and then to I don't know, just sit and relax as much as you can when you're watching a movie like this.
Yeah. Well, it's your first time on the channel, so as I always like to do, just find out a little bit about the kind of horror movies you like. So would you, I'll let you speak however you like about horror and the kind of movies you typically go for.
So I would say that I generally quite like horror. I watch a lot of cheesy slashers in the build up to Halloween. I know I did that a couple years ago, especially. I do like my horror comedies and stuff, which I would kind of class Violent Night as definitely as such. As for time, I'm not really too fussed. I like something that's made today just as much as I like my oldies and stuff. One of my favorite films is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, one of the ones that, started the German Expressionist movement. And so I really do like a bit of everything. Especially those, I'm sure you'll probably understand this, horror films that build and earn their scares and feelings more than horror films that will just kind of jump scare and throw something at you and make it a bit more of a reactionary response to horror rather than something that's building and tense, if you know what I mean. So if we're talking some of my favorite horror films, The Shining has to be there. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, as I said before. I quite like the Cabin in the Woods as well. The 2011 Cabin in the Woods. I quite like that. Most slashers I quite like. The Blair Witch Project. One of my favorites as well.
That's incredibly wide ranging. My goodness, like you're going very classic here.
Eyes Without a Face as well. Eyes Without a Face.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that is very handy. We watched that this year, and I was blown away by it. I absolutely loved it.
Yes.
It's so it doesn't look like a film from the 60s. It goes, I think just because it's made in France, it was made under completely different conventions. And so visually, it was something that I just didn't expect. I loved it. And the characterization was amazing as well.
I completely agree. I think I was watching Edgar Wright. He went through his favorite Criterion movies and stuff, and he pointed out that one as a movie that he really enjoyed. And I love Edgar Wright a lot. So he said that was one of his favorites. So I was like, let's give it a watch. And what do you know? He wasn't wrong about it. It was a fantastic film. So I guess in general, I do love a very wide range of horror.
Excellent. Well, I very much appreciate it. I think we've covered all of those except The Shining, because I've never known what to say about it, because it's just so well known. Some films are so well known, you almost think, what am I going to say that hasn't already been covered? And I'd probably just be. Have you ever watched Rob Agar's work on The Shining?
No, I don't believe I have.
Probably Eyes Without a Face. The French title is Les Yeux sans visage. We covered it in the 1960 arc, or possibly Das Cabinet des Dr. Caligari's, or Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. One of those, I think. Yeah, very, very good taste there. Yeah, and broad ranging. Sorry, I was a bit distracted by the comment. You mentioned the commentary you've been looking at about The Shining.
What's this, Rob Agar?
Yeah, sorry, I lost the stream of conversation there a bit there. Sorry, Fox.
Oh, I didn't bring it up. I thought you brought it up.
Yeah, sorry. I was just wondering if you'd looked at his commentary.
No, I have not. No.
Oh, okay. Really interesting stuff. Very like scary. Some people can go scarily deep on the analysis. Things of, I'm not even sure your subconscious brain would be able to catch that. Like amazing details. So it'd be worth it. Okay, yeah, really wide ranging. So, I mean, it's interesting where to go from that, because you've covered all the eras, you've got all the sort of levels of complexity as well. I suppose I almost want to ask, because it's been a bit controversial on here recently. How do you feel about David Lynch films?
Oh, David Lynch films. I'll tell you what, I saw Blue Velvet maybe 2 years ago, and at first I really didn't get it. I didn't really like it too much, and then there was something about that film that just stuck with me for weeks and weeks and months, and I couldn't get it out of my head, despite the fact that I thought I would forget about it a couple of minutes later. But now I really want to rewatch it, because it is a film that has stuck with me. I have not seen a lot of his work. I think Blue Velvet is the only one that I've seen, even though I really want to watch Eraserhead as well, and The Elephant Man too. But that's the only one I've seen is Blue Velvet.
Oh, bless. Okay. I think that experience might be common. Like every Lynch film, I found a difficult watch, and then the rewatch, it's always been better. But yeah, Eraserhead is a very tough one, a very tough viewing. But if you're watching the expressionist stuff, you aren't going to be as thrown as much, I think. I'll just pause here quickly. TCG, thanks very much, man. Obviously, we miss you on stream. We will not spoil this for you. We'll have a little 5-minute spoiler-free chat once we've done the topic, but that's very much appreciated. Thank you for the super chat, and a very timely reminder to everyone to, yes, absolutely stab that like button with a sharpened candy cane, grab the subscribe button, wrap it in Christmas lights and throw it out the window. That's what we want to see on this channel, guys. We are on YouTube. We have to do that sort of thing.
Of course.
Oh, excellent stuff. Thank you very much, TCG. Yeah, on the Lynch stuff, I've just found, like, on the subsequent viewings, when I've been able to delve in, when I've been able to sort of, I don't really want to say make sense of it, but I can't. I've got the worst analogies come to mind. It's like a dance track that you can't quite get the rhythm of. And
Yeah.
the second viewing, you can pick it up, and you're like, oh, okay, and you can start going with it, and work out what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I think it was that. I mean, I know for me personally, when I'm watching this, there are a few filmmakers and stuff where I'd like to think I know a little bit about film, but I know that there's also, for someone like David Lynch, I'm sure there are themes and meanings that are just going over my head, and I feel like that was happening for Blue Velvet a little bit. Despite the fact, like, I do want to rewatch it, because again, it's a film that I watched. I didn't quite, I guess, have a connection towards it I thought I should, but it lingered with me. It lingered with me for a long, long time, and it still does. So I think I do want to rewatch it at some point soon, just so I can try and, I guess review really what was being said and how I felt about it.
Nice. And there's one other thing that comes to mind that I'm sort of interested to ask you is, how do you feel about Ari Aster's work? So that's Midsummer and Hereditary, if you've seen those.
I actually haven't. I have not seen either of those films. I've heard a lot of things on both of them, but I have not seen either.
I will say no more among them, but those, I don't know, if you like, from what you've described, I think, well, it's horror, so it sounds like you definitely get along watching it. But if you're liking The Shining, I think it might pay off for you.
I'll give it definitely give it a look at some point for sure.
Excellent. All right, I'm just a bit blown away. Like people casually dropping Eyes Without a Face and Dr. Caligari is a bit wonderful to hear, to be honest. That's lovely.
I did a course on German Expressionism when I was when I just started learning film. We did I was probably 17 at the time, but one of my classes we did a module in German Expressionism. So Nosferatu, the 1922? I think it's probably about 100 years now, and Cabinet of Dr. Caligari were two films that it was just quintessential to have seen those films and to understand how they've influenced filmmaking now. And then Eyes Without a Face is more just I like Edgar Wright, so I thought I listened to his recommendations.
Very sensible, I found, to be honest. There's some nice expressionist angles in Eyes Without a Face as well. Just there's one moment of the doctor going up the stairs that is framed in such a way that I just thought that is absolutely classic. That looks very much like Dr. Caligari. I thought that has to be a tribute. But excellent. All right. Well, moving on forward, I'll just quickly do the topic section. I am not finishing off, in case anyone missed the previous streams, I'm not covering the final part of BBFC history until TCG's back, because we've sort of gone through that whole series together. So we'll do the final part of BBFC history in the new year. So I thought we're coming to the end of 2022. It might just be a nice time to do a quick roundup of some of the things that I've covered this year that I thought were really worth watching, that were pleasant surprises. And Fox, you can tell me if you've seen any of these. Let's see. So one of the first ones I've got here that I've done a stream on this, not on the regular double feature horror one, but I did a one-off stream with some friends on Saint Maud from, I think, 2019.
I have not seen that one, no.
Oh, absolutely lovely British horror with Morpeth Clark, who's currently in Rings of Power, and absolutely bizarrely, I might get the name wrong, Jennifer Earler, who was Elizabeth Bennet in the 1994 Pride and Prejudice. One of those castings that just makes you sort of sit up and you're completely distracted for ages once you've worked out who it is. That is a lovely tale. It's kind of like a religious horror version of Taxi Driver to an extent. Just amazing, borderline sort of solo performance about a woman struggling with visions in Britain, let's say. Absolutely fantastic performance. Saint Maud, really recommended. Then another pleasant discovery that I've not talked about on stream, but I thought I'd recommend to people, was the Mortuary Collection.
I've not seen that one either.
Oh, okay, no worries. I'm leaving that out there. That's a horror anthology, and everyone knows I massively am biased towards horror anthologies. I just love the format, and this has about 5 stories delivered very quickly. Nice angles on all of them. They've all got nice twists, and there's some really sly horror references in there that I really appreciated. So the Mortuary Collection, I highly recommend. I think you can get that on Shudder. Well, that's where I saw it. Then I was going to recommend 2020's Possessor by Brandon Cronenberg. That was one...
Oh, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead, man.
I just haven't seen that one either.
Oh, no, I'm like 0 for 3 on this one. What happened? Okay. Possessor, absolutely amazing. It's from David Cronenberg's son, Brandon Cronenberg. Amazing vision. It could slide into Black Mirror and just be like a feature-length version of that, but absolutely astounding stuff. We did that on stream. It's kind of like a dark Cronenberg horror version of Inception in a way. We all rated that massively highly. Wonderful discovery. I'll briefly mention Lost Highway, but that was last week's stream. So if you want to hear what we thought on that, we covered it then. David Lynch's Lost Highway from 1997. Also massively pleased with Eyes Without a Face from 1960. Finally, we got one. Yeah. I mean, that was just a delight. Basically, on a whim, I'd noticed that 1960 in particular just had a ridiculous number of amazing films. Like all of them in that year. So Peeping Tom, Psycho, Village of the Damned, and Eyes Without a Face, all in that year. And so we covered those. That was an absolute winner. Lovely French horror from back in the day that will not be what you expect, but I think you'll find a really satisfying watch if you didn't do it already. And the final one, possibly controversially, I really liked the 5th Scream movie. I've seen it about 5 times. I'm an absolute sucker for it.
Is that like one that's come out this year? I mean, like the Scream 5. I've seen the first one, but I think I've also seen the second one.
Okay.
But I have not seen. I've definitely not seen 5 of them.
It's Fox. I'm very unbalanced in my love of the Scream series. Do not be ashamed.
I do love the first one. To be fair, I do love. I mean, I said I do love a bit of slasher and stuff, and I think Scream is definitely a good. At least the first one, I thought, with what's his name, Matthew Lillard. I love him.
Yeah.
Love Matthew Lillard.
Oh, I mean, just perfect casting, frankly, on him. Yeah, it's Well, I would have thought like with you enjoying Cabin in the Woods, like the Scream series would really work for you. It's just like this occasional thing that comes in and tries to do a sort of almost like a thesis on the state of horror at the time it was made.
Yeah. I know the director of the first one didn't actually want to do horror. He wanted to do rom-com. He wanted to do romance.
Very true, very true. I think he only got to do the one, didn't he? Was it a Song of the Heart or?
Yes.
Yeah.
That rings a bell.
I'll confess though, Fox, I just go back to his horror over and over again.
He might have just been made for it. That's the thing is, maybe it was what the heart wanted, but it wasn't what his calling was.
Indeed. I mean, I think he may have branched out a bit, but that was his calling. He got the name. He is, he's Wes Craven. He's the horror master. People just wanted him to do more and more of it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I thought it would have been interesting to try some of the films that are lesser known from him, where he branched out a bit more. Things like Serpent and the Rainbow, or People Under the Stairs, or the very little seen Shocker, which does look like absolute schlock.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the film poster for it right now. It doesn't look. I mean, I don't know if I'd pay to go see that movie.
We paid to see Violent Night. Come on, Fox. Let's not have too much pride here.
I guess I gotta get off my get off my high horse here.
Let's see. Quick question. Next, real horror versus real horror. I am pretty set on what the topic's going to be, but it's most likely going to be January. I just need to, because those are collaborations, they're a bit harder to arrange. So we've got a few in mind. So January is probably when we're going to do the next one. All right. But it's, how can I say, it's the subject matter of the real life horror story is going to be a little difficult, and it's not massively YouTube friendly. So it might be harder to get that covered. But I'll leave that as a little hint for what it is. Okay. Yeah, so those were some of the recommendations that we covered that I just thought people would enjoy. And a very brisk 23 minutes in. Should we actually discuss the film?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, fantastic. I have a little thing that I get people to do, which is it seems almost superfluous in this one, to be honest.
Okay.
The Pint of Guinness challenge is, can you do a quick summary of the film that it would in the time it would take to pour a pint of Guinness? You're at the bar, you're talking about it, talking about this film, someone comes up to you and says, "What, Violent Night? What's that about?" What would you say to that person in the time it takes to get your pint of Guinness poured?
I think I could sum it up quite quickly, to be honest. I don't think it's the toughest one in the world. I'd say that Violent Night is kind of like Die Hard if it was just Santa instead of what was his name in Die Hard?
Bruce Willis?
Yeah, his character, Bruce Willis. Basically that. Imagine Die Hard, except they steer more into Christmas. And a little bit more brutal, and Santa instead of Bruce Willis. Because that's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's... we're doing this spoiler free, right?
Yeah, it's not deep, is it? It's all in the trailer.
Like I'm just having a look over the trailer now. Like, what can I actually say? Because most of it's even in the trailer. It's just a bunch of people want to get some money. They rob the house. Santa comes. He puts an end to it. That's really. I don't think it really goes much deeper than that. I think I could probably just that sentence, Die Hard, just with Santa instead of Bruce Willis.
Yeah, that'll do it. I mean, it's all in the trailer, folks. Yeah, this is one of the easier Guinness challenges. People do usually struggle, but yeah, this is the most Ron Seal horror movie in ages. It's Santa. You just like Santa doing his Under Siege thing, doing his Die Hard thing. You know, what do you want? It's all there, and it's exactly what this film is. So it's not what we would usually cover, but you know, like the last few weeks have been really heavy. We did oh, apologies, folks, I can't remember his name. The Polish director, I'm not going to try and mangle it and guess, but the Polish director of Possession, we covered that. That was unbelievably intense, like Blue Velvet vibes, Fox, but more exhausting. We covered that. And then we had a deep dive into propaganda and persuasion in 12 Angry Men. And then we did Lost Highway. So we've done loads of heavy analysis over the last few weeks. It's tiring, guys. Sometimes you just want to see Santa smack people around with a sledgehammer. And that's exactly what we got here.
I thought it was an interesting choice that they had Santa's weapon be the sledgehammer, and they gave him this backstory, which I don't know how. Obviously, Santa has a history of his own, but I can't remember it being the history that they gave him in this film. I can't remember that. I can't remember ever. I mean, I think the earliest I ever heard of Santa was that he was around in the Victorian era. I thought he was maybe about 150 years old, but they obviously gave him a very different backstory here, that he is very, very old. And anytime they, I guess, wrote themselves into a corner, they would just say it's magic that can't be understood. Oh, how did this happen? Oh, it's magic. I don't understand it.
I'm kind of torn over that, but it was just quite funny how they almost winked at the camera and said, like, it's magic. What do you want?
They wink at the camera the entire movie. It's drenched in cheese. Like, you know, it's got enough cheese to fill up a cheese board, because it is. I mean, it's what you get when you walk into a film called Violent Night. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you know what you're getting here.
Yeah. I mean, you know, does it do it as well as some other films? No. But is it Christmas related? Yes. So I guess this is, if you want to get more into the mood, this might help you if you want to get into the Christmas feeling. But it is definitely drenched in cheesy action, you know, one-liners and stuff, and I don't know, throughout, just winking at the camera and saying, oh, you know, magic that can't be understood. I'm Santa, but I don't understand how this happened.
Yeah, that was an odd thing in that it raised quite a lot and it didn't massively develop it. But then am I weird for wanting them to fully develop some deep lore around this Santa? Am I the weird one?
I don't think so. I would have wanted to know a little bit more about Santa, because they give you his origin, and then they kind of just go, and you know, he's kept those skills for about 1,000 years, and now he's doing this. They don't really explain anything. They give him a connection with Mrs. Claus, which is really only, like, you know, finished off with a single note at the very end. There's a lot about this Santa that just isn't really explored, you know. And obviously, I guess when you walk in here, you're looking for the action, and you're looking for the creative kills, which they do deliver on. But I guess sometimes it feels a bit unearned when we don't really know this Santa, who is, I think he is quite an interesting character. I definitely, every time the camera was on him, I was more invested than, say, when it was on the family or, you know, anyone else. He definitely is like the main piece, which is good because he's the main character. But yeah, I do wish they kind of explained more instead of just pinning it down to Christmas magic.
Yeah, it's interesting to know where to take this. I mean, I'd say maybe let's. Again, I don't know how much we can really spoil this, but let's just say, in case you're worried, we will talk in full spoiler mode now. Let's give a cap to the spoiler-free portion. Just I find it a bit hard to talk without spoiling the thing. So for my cap to the spoiler-free portion, it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's maybe slightly long, but it advertises a Die Hard with a drunken Santa, and it delivers that, and it does it quite well, shot very well, with a good amount of creative violence. And David Harbour is very fun in it. If you want a bit of schlock, if you're feeling in the mood for something much more professionally done than a lot of the Killer Santa movies, but still leaning on the funny side, this will probably do it for you. It's one of the more successful horror comedies, I'd say, in terms of keeping you engaged.
I agree with that. I think this is the kind of movie. I don't know if you watch any of this stuff. I think his name's Jeremy Jahns, and when he gives his film reviews, he'll like his reviews are kind of like arbitrary because they're not like, say, a star, or they're not like 10 out of 10. They're I would go to see this, always, and stuff. And I think he has one category which is good if you're drunk. And I think this is the kind of film where if you've had a couple of glasses of eggnog or a bit of mulled wine, I think this could be quite fun. And I like, even me being sober when I watched it, I did think it was fun and entertaining. But it is again, as you said, what it says on the tin. It's not, it's not deep, it's not meaningful. It is just an entertaining time with some, in all fairness, some nice creative kills, which I do enjoy. When you set a scene up like this, how is Santa going to? How's he going to get his way out of this one? Is he going to strangle someone with some tinsel, or is he going to I don't know? What else does he do? Stab someone with a candy cane.
I mean, it was in the trailer. I thought, okay, that's quite tempting.
All the best kills are in the trailer, to be honest. I'm just watching the trailer now. All of the best ones are in there. They don't leave anything, really. None of the fun ones are not included in the trailer.
Of course, they're going to cram it all in. They want to make sure.
Yeah, sure.
This feels like a movie that someone just got around and said, look, David Harbour is absolutely massive and beardy. We've got to make him do this. I've got the feeling that this only happened because of David Harbour.
I kind of agree. I don't know how many other actors you would cast as Santa in this. But I guess when I'm thinking about this from like maybe a production company's point of view, it might just be a very good idea. I've always said if I was ever going to release a song, it would be a Christmas song, because you can play it every year. So even say this didn't perform necessarily that well at the box office, because it's a Christmas movie and because it is of quite like high production value, it's just going to get every single year people will watch this, even if even if it's not the first or second or even third Christmas action or Christmas horror movie they want to see. I'm sure people would get around to this at some point, just because it is, Christmas movies tend to be a bit limited, and it's something a bit different to the usual kind of, I don't know, schlocky, lovey-dovey Christmas rom-coms and childhood movies and stuff.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think that's quite canny. There is an aim to try and get a Christmas horror market. I mean, funnily enough, the first Scream did very well because it was released in December. Now, it's got nothing to do with Christmas, but there was sort of, the horror audience doesn't really typically have things around December. So they all swarmed on Scream back in the day. And if you go to specifically Christmas-related horror, I mean, there's quite a lot, but the quality is not really there. A lot of it is, how can I say, schlocky, but not necessarily competent.
I understand what you mean.
Like you've got to be a dedicated horror fan to enjoy it, and even then, it's like a bit of a, oh, this is not good.
Yeah, I think it. Christmas and horror, I feel as though are quite difficult themes to marry up. I guess, I mean, I know that, was it The Nightmare Before Christmas isn't exactly like a horror movie, because of course it's not, but it does have, that gothic style to it. And it's like I've always described it like a chocolate orange, two things that shouldn't go together but do. And I feel like Christmas and horror, they don't traditionally go together. And I feel like it's quite tough to marry them up. And I think it can be done right. And I don't think this does it necessarily that wrong, but it doesn't. Obviously, it's not that breakaway. And I don't think there ever will be this breakaway film that everyone's like, oh, this is the Christmas horror film that just draw a line underneath it. This is the best one. I don't know if there will ever be that, because I don't know if there can. If you know what I mean.
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, it's because Christmas is, it's sacred, it's wholesome, it's big family, it's the most wholesome vibes. That does give you like an amazing target for horror, because
It does.
Something sacred and wholesome being violated, that is effectively the root of horror. And but a lot of films that try this, they do go for the comedy angle. It's already been mentioned in the chat, Black Christmas, brilliant call, Joe. There's a 1974 original Bob Clark's version, pre-Halloween, and really setting up some amazing slasher techniques and properly disturbing, amazing stuff. I mean, that feels to me like that is probably the Christmas horror that takes it seriously and delivers. I'd also throw in, do you know Inside Number 9 well?
I know of it. I think I've seen an episode or two.
Okay, no worries. They did a Christmas special that was wonderfully chilling, with a very specific vibe on it. They did it in the manner of a 1970s BBC theatre production, which they got the look and everything, and they added some very disturbing sensibilities as well. And that I thought worked amazingly, played it straight and delivered the scares and chills. But most of them do go for the Killer Santa angle. But it does tend to be a more laugh at rather than laugh with.
Yeah, I completely understand, because what I was saying was is that, yeah, I guess maybe Black Christmas might be it. I don't know, I haven't seen it, but this wasn't trying to be. This was never trying. This was definitely just trying to play up to the fact that, Santa's got a sledgehammer. What's he going to do? Imagine seeing this beloved childhood character, brutalize and decapitate and electrocute bad guys. It was never trying to be that to be meaningful or deep or anything. I think it's a pop conflict at the end of the day, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It completely is, and on that it succeeds. Put it alongside Brain Dead or Black Sheep, or I'm trying to think of others, and I'm only coming up with obscure ones like Evil Ed. I'm not doing very well here, folks. I'm not good with horror comedies. What can I say? John Goris, great shout. Yeah, I think that's the Tales from the Crypt TV series did their own version of it, directed by Robert Zemeckis, and All Through the House, I believe it's called. I think that's the first season. So 2 versions of that story. It's weird that Robert Zemeckis did it. He's usually I just think of him doing wholesome stuff. And he did this nasty, escaped lunatic Santa. So something I thought I'd throw out there is, it's kind of nice that Santa was the hero, because most of the horrors, it's like a killer Santa, it's an evil Santa, it's frequently an escaped lunatic who puts on a Santa costume. The most obvious example that I would not inflict on you, chat. I would never make you sit through this. I made you sit through the first one, but I wouldn't make you sit through the sequel, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Have you ever experienced this? That one, Fox?
I don't think I've had the pleasure, or perhaps the displeasure.
Okay. Silent Night, Deadly Night is maybe the OG Killer Santa movie. I mean, it's coming after the 1972 Tales from the Crypt, but it was a cheapy exploitation slasher that had notoriety mostly because it did well enough to get a sequel, but the studio didn't want to pay any money, and they wanted to literally just recut the film and the original film and claim it was a sequel. The director did put his foot down and get some money for a little bit of new footage. And so literally, I think about 60% of the movie is the brother of the original protagonist recounting the first film and then getting like a tiny kappa. It's absolutely maddening. But yeah, definitely on the sort of laugh at side rather than laugh with. And the reason I mention that specifically is because to my delight, and one of the reasons I was keen to see this, is that Violent Night explicitly references Silent Night, Deadly Night. All the times that Santa Claus says naughty in this. Did you catch that?
I noticed him say it a fair bit.
Yeah.
But I did not know that it was a reference.
Yeah. If it seemed weird to you how much he just sort of looked at someone's name and said naughty, that's because he was referencing Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's what the Killer Santa says every time he's about to dispatch someone. Seeing them reference that made me really happy.
I was going to say, because they do definitely poke at, I guess, a few different like Christmassy films throughout the movie. I guess definitely the most blatant is Home Alone.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was gonna happen as soon as the film starts, and she mentions it within 5 minutes. She mentions that she's been watching Home Alone, and I was like, okay, that's where this is going. Then I know, like the second those words left the daughter's mouth, it's like, okay, well, I can see where this is going. And the second they pulled up to the huge manor. I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of watching this film, but when I was a child, I watched Home Alone 4.
What?
Yeah, there's 7 of them. Everyone knows the first 2 of them.
No, don't just drop that. There are 7.
I think there is
what?
6. I want to say there's.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone knows the original 2, obviously. I think a lot of people also know the third with it's got that little blonde kid that was in all of the not Macaulay Culkin, but I think a lot of people know that there was a third. Not so many people know that there was a fourth, which was one that I watched when I was very young. It wasn't something I've watched since, but it's something I think I was not brought up on, but I did watch. Really bad in reflection. There's a 5th one that I haven't seen, and I think there was a 6th one that came out last year with, I think I remember Ellie Kemper being in it. But it did, I mean, I don't think there was any parallel. I don't think they were referencing Home Alone 4 in the film explicitly, but I saw the mansion and I was like, like Home Alone 4.
You got to do it, haven't you? I mean, I love that. I'll be honest. I thought you're doing the Die Hard plot. You've got to. You could just completely redo that, but the fact that you're obviously redoing it means, I think, like the audience patience is a bit down. And
yeah,
you want variety, don't you? Like the shtick would wear a bit. The drunk Santa having to fight back shtick would get a bit old. I think they were very smart to mix it up and throw in the Home Alone thing as well, and just like make it blatant, but then have the fun of kind of demonstrating that if Home Alone were realistic, it would be absolutely horrific and nightmarish. For people's pleasure, as I think not everyone will have seen it, but again, we're in spoiler mode, and nothing in this will surprise you, folks. Everything you expect to happen in this film happens in this film, so we aren't spoiling anything. Fox, for people's pleasure, would you care to sort of recount the Home Alone tribute?
So, of course. So there's two of the goons. This one's got a male and a female, so it's not so much on the Harry and Marv, but definitely the male seemed more of the Marv type, because I remember in the Home Alone movies, Marv was always taking, at least at the very start, he would always take the biggest beating. Harry was more, he'd usually get in the house or something, but before. So yeah, two goons, there's a male and a female, and the male doesn't even make it into, I guess, the area. There's the are we going full spoilers?
Oh, full spoilers.
Full spoilers. So the young daughter of the family, who I guess like the emotional kind of, her connection to Santa is really like the I guess the center. I guess, maybe her parents and stuff, but her with Santa is definitely a core relationship in the film. She escapes sort of bizarrely, but she runs out, she hides in the attic, and then two goons track her down, and she tells Santa earlier that she set up booby traps to try and stop them, and basically the entire Home Alone shtick then happens, where these goons see the traps and they're like, "Oh, you idiots, you stupid kid! What are you doing here?" And then obviously they don't see the second trap, and it hits them, and basically then they just meet gory deaths after being humiliated for about 5 minutes by a child.
It's fun enough with just the contrast between, it's doing Home Alone, but then when it does the Home Alone thing and shows the damage on like it, I think like that was the nastiest, most gory part of the movie was that bit.
I kind of agree, especially. Actually, no, they both just get it really, really. At least say the goon soldiers and stuff that were just being shot up and those were just very instant deaths. Whereas these two were they just get hit and hit again and hit and hit again, and I mean, completely 5 minutes of hell, really.
Yeah. I sort of felt early on, like, even though it's a 15 rated film, I felt like they were holding back on the gore a bit in a fair few of the early kills.
I agree.
And then I don't know if it was just, I mean, Fox, you might not know this. I've tormented viewers for a year with the history of the British film censorship and film certification. It's amazing anyone returns, but we go very in depth on it. And you pull out of that the sort of wrangling that happens in a film and how many times it goes back and forth in order to get a certificate. I've got the feeling that they had to send quite a lot of the early kills back and just cut them quite short to make sure they didn't go into the sort of NC-17 or 18 rated territory.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, they definitely did not cut the Home Alone stuff short. That was wonderfully nasty. And when we saw it in the cinema, it was people sort of who'd been quite calm and just like laughing along, having a good time. There is a proper, like, you saw people wince and jump up. And I winced and I jumped up as well.
Yeah, especially I think the first injury, if you know what I mean, with the nail. That one, that was a bit of a definitely a nasty one. It kind of reminded me a little bit. I know it wasn't going for it, but have you ever seen Hot Fuzz, where the
oh yes,
the guy at the very end, he falls through the steeple and it goes up underneath his chin? It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, and then more and more. I guess it is an interesting. I mean, I say interesting. It's fairly interesting to draw the connection of, obviously it's Christmas. Home Alone should be a horror film. Realistically, Home Alone should be a horror film. But of course, because it's not, they don't really go so far. And this one definitely does go a bit further. But I can't. I mean, I'm trying to think. Apart from that, I know the entire film was basically Die Hard with Santa. I can't remember if they actually make any Die Hard references.
They do. They do. So in the first kill, down in the basement, Santa is pulling things out of his sack. He's looking for a weapon in his sort of endless sack of presents. And he pulls out and announces Die Hard on Blu-ray.
Oh, I missed that.
It was like, okay, yeah, brilliant. You got that in there. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, you had to do it. You knew they were going to do it. The film is very upfront about what it is. So it directly references Die Hard and Home Alone and just says, have a good time with it.
Oh, of course, as well, some of the Stooges are, like, obviously the John Leguizamo's character is Scrooge. And they've got Krampus as well. The kind of crazy goon. They just call him Krampus.
He was so much fun.
At those characters. I like, even now I'm trying to think. John Leguizamo's characters, like his. I mean, for me, the entire film just fell apart over the past like the last 20 minutes of the film, where it was just like the climax and stuff. It really just fell apart. And John Leguizamo's character was like, "Oh, my entire life has been building up to this moment." I was like, "Really, Santa?" Like, do you think your standoff with Santa is going to be your life has been building to this? Really?
Well, I will forgive it, because I just thought John Leguizamo was he was just having so much fun. Like, it was a perfect performance of someone who knows he's in schlock and is going to deliver just the right performance at the right level to let you know he's not taking it seriously, but he's going to act at 110%.
I think him and David Harbour really carry the film on their backs, which I think, it goes without saying they're, I guess, the two biggest names attached to it, but they really do carry the film, at least in my opinion. I didn't really care for many of the other characters too much. They didn't really have a lot. I don't think I'll really remember their dynamics and relationships. I quite like the what was it, the grandmum. I remember like thinking, okay, yeah, she's at least got a little bit of something to her. But
did you struggle to place her, like try and recognize the actress?
You reminded me. I definitely seen her in something. But I don't know who the actress is. She reminded me a bit of a Jessica Walter type of character, which I love Jessica Walter in, whether it be Archer or whether it be Arrested Development. She's got such a presence to her. What's her name? Beverly D'Angelo.
Yeah. This will sound really weird. I know her from American History X.
Oh yeah, I've seen
it. Was so distracting. It was sort of, hang on, what? And yeah, you're right. She's doing a Jessica Walter character. But that was really jarring to me. Just think. But then again, you watch American History X, and I was just completely distracted by two Star Trek actors being in it.
I haven't seen Star Trek, so I think I've got quite the. I definitely knew I recognized her from somewhere. She's got, I don't know, maybe it was that I was just thinking of Jessica Walter the entire time, but I'm sure I've seen her in at least one or two things.
She was kind of fun, and she did have. I thought she had a bit more going on there. She wasn't just what you would say like a super high-powered, ruthless. Just like absolutely domineering CEO. Like, she had a bit more going on later in the film that they added in, but yeah, it is just John Leguizamo and David Harbour being absolutely perfect and carrying it. Just, they know exactly what movie they're in, and they don't go over the line to not take it seriously enough. They pitch it just enough to have fun with it.
Yeah, I think you're completely right there. I think they definitely find that ground where they know they're in Violent Nights, which is, again, it is just a pop conflict, but they give enough seriousness so that it's not just constant winks to the camera, and they do respect the film in general, and they respect the audience. But it is kind of a hokey, cheesy film at the same time because of it. That's just its nature. So they do have a bit more fun, and they do kind of you can see there is a bit of playing around there between the two of them.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you were mentioning the end when John Leguizamo was like, "It's all built up to this."
God.
There's something else he said, which is "Christmas dies tonight."
Yeah, Christmas dies tonight.
I mean, I love them for that. If that's not making sense to anyone, it in Halloween Kills, which was released last year, it became kind of a meme that they just say the phrase "evil dies tonight" over and over and over, and they try and make it a catchphrase. So John Leguizamo just trotting out "Christmas dies tonight," making borderline no sense with it, was just brilliant. And it makes it obvious that this film has a very good sense of humor about itself.
Yeah.
So that cracked me up. That unexpected Halloween Kills reference. And then some very creative gore to conclude that fight as well.
Yeah, I love as well him. We are still in like full spoiler territory.
Full spoilers. It's all good.
Him, before he dies, yelling "No!" as it, like, and I was wondering, like, did he know what was about to happen in the second that Santa picked him up? Did he know? And he was like, "No!" I couldn't stop laughing to myself when that was happening. I was like, does he know, or was he just yelling it out?
I wonder if they just went with the craziest take they had of that, because it was so over the top.
Okay. And then following that. Okay, if we're in full spoiler mode, I want to talk about the parents.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The parents who, after suffering this horribly tragic event of being taken hostage in front of their daughter and their, and then after all of this, bringing their daughter along to see Santa almost die. I'm sorry. Okay, this was something that I saw in this. I was thinking one of them can go check what the commotion's about with Santa, or preferably neither of them. But at least one of them. The daughter should not be anywhere near a dying Santa. That would traumatize I mean, imagine watching Santa, who you thought was real, and then you're told he's not, and then you find out he is real. Imagine watching him die in front of your eyes. Once you're crying, you're like, "Dear Santa, please don't die." And he's like, "I don't have any Christmas magic left." I mean, that's gotta traumatize a kid. Who brings their daughter to see? I guess the parents. I mean, I don't know if they believed in Santa at the time, but maybe they just thought it was a random guy. Even still, you shouldn't be bringing your daughter to see to check up on what's happening. That just made no sense for me.
No, I mean the end is for all the. There's all the fun of the Leguizamo fight, which is to scene set for people who understandably haven't seen it yet. This is Die Hard / Home Alone in a mansion. So you get to the bit where almost all the bad guys are sorted out. So then it's the the final boss fight, and it's out away from the mansion. It's in what looks like a ruined stone hut or something. I was really confused about where they actually were. But yes,
the woods in a shack or something.
Yeah, they have the showdown fight with fire in the background. It's so knowingly over the top. They're having great fun. But you got to have the boss fight basically, and it's after that basically they win that, but then at great cost, Santa is dying, and they bring everyone around, and it's I mean, it's a bit questionable because this is one of the challenges of the film. The very first scene, and I'll maybe switch over the image there to be a bit more appropriate for that opening scene, does really set the tone for it. There we go. So you have the sort of scene that is in the trailer. You know, I said it's really hard to spoil this film. Of real Santa is just kind of a grouchy drunk in a bar, you know, gearing himself up to do Christmas again and not really feeling it. And there's a mall Santa and he doesn't know that the real Santa is there. You know, everything you'd expect. And they build up to a moment of quite sweet sincerity of the real Santa proving his worth, proving that he still cares. And the landlady, the bar lady, runs up to the roof to see him leave, and she's sort of overcome with the sudden magic of it all, the awe, the realization that Christmas is real, and then he voms on her face from up on high.
Classic.
Yeah, I mean, how can I say? I was about to say it landed really well, and I might want to rephrase that. The scene worked. But it does set up a bit of a it's just a tricky dynamic to work with, that the film is trying to be quite cynical and beamy and knowing. And then at the end, it takes a hard swing towards sincerity.
Oh, that
and
scene,
schmaltz.
that it's so schmaltzy, cheesy. I mean, it really, honestly, I was thinking it was something out of a Care Bears movie or something. That scene, it didn't ruin the entire film for me, but it just kind of took everything that it had before about this cynical Santa, about all of this violence and gore, and it went from a 15 to a universal in a single scene. I mean, I don't really know what to say about it.
We are potentially overanalyzing it, but this is what I do here. I overanalyze things like crazy, you know. It's a tricky one because I almost felt like they did it on default. If you do go cynical, if you are deconstructing things, you do end up at a point where you've deconstructed everything. So now what do you do? And that was at the end. So you can't really end a film by saying, you know, it's all terrible and nothing really matters. If only because Santa started there. Santa started grouchy and nihilistic. You know, he can't end grouchy and nihilistic. He has to go through some kind of journey, you know?
Yeah, I think I feel like there was another way around it, but I mean, I don't know what it was. At the end of the day, it's a Christmas film, so maybe you just want to end on a, you know, a good feeling. But for me, it was too schmaltzy, just too schmaltzy. That scene in, you know, particular just did not work. I mean, again, I generally enjoyed the film, but that one in particular really took me out.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing because I felt like I didn't feel they were winking at the camera. They were just really trying to be suddenly very sincere, very, very schmaltz. You know, it's folks, and it's what you would predict. We've had the boss fight. Santa's taken a horrible hit, you know, well, actually from someone else, but let's not derail. And Santa basically, as you say, dies. It's horrible. But I mean, I'm going to have to say this sentence, aren't I?
Yeah.
If I can't make it through, I think I can feel a cavity forming, even as I say it. He's brought back to life by the magic of believing in Christmas. And that's literally what happens. They play it straight, and it's like, you've been so cynical and nihilistic, like the whole film, and then you do this.
I think it's the fact they don't even wink at it. They just say that's a thing that happened. They don't even make a joke that it was like, oh, that's a bit cliche. That's a bit corny. You know, it's like, I don't know, those scenes when a character dies and someone cries and it's like that tear is the elixir of life that brings them. It's like that. I mean, that I just wish they changed something there, because I think it's nice if they have a happy ending. It's a Christmas film at the end of the day. It's not one. If anything, I call it more of an action than a horror. But that scene in particular, just it completely. I couldn't even say who decided that was a good idea, because it just went against the tone of the entire film. I feel like there would have been something they could have done that was just more fitting with the rest. And that one in general just feels like it feels like the writers' children wrote it or something. Just because, not in a horrible way, but just in the fact that it was so schmaltzy and all the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I have an idea for that. But let's see. First off, Marina, thank you very much for the $5. That is much appreciated. And I see down below you're saying Lost Highways are bad. Absolutely not. We rated it. We rated it massively. We talked about it last week. Harry from Lotus Eaters came on, and we actually had very different interpretations of the film. And then chat was coming up with some amazing other interpretations. So it's just an amazing film for being able to look into. Spread the good word. There's people who don't appreciate it. We gotta turn them round. Thanks again for the $5. Much appreciated. If they were going to stick to the tone, the kind of nudge, nudge, wink, wink, meta not fourth wall break, but subverting the Christmas movie tone, do you reckon they could have done a thing where, like, they're doing what they're doing, they're trying the magic of Christmas, they're trying burning the millions of dollars, don't worry chat, it makes sense in the movie, to keep him warm, and then have someone else come by telling them they're being idiots and start doing CPR on him?
I think that would have been better, to be honest. I feel like that could have worked. I feel like, I'll be honest, I think actually I was thinking for a second maybe the dad does not do anything in this film. He does not do anything.
Oh, he's completely useless. I spent the whole film wondering who he was, and I thought, is he Remy Malek? No. Is he Oscar Isaac? I'm terrible at recognizing faces, and it was driving me mad.
Yeah, he does. I do recognize him. I've seen him in something else, but I could not put my finger on it.
He was in The Boys as translucent, so we saw him very briefly in season 1.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that was dear. Yeah,
I think he's naked for most of that as well.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, basically all of the hostages minus the daughter really, I mean, don't have much going on, as I think I've mentioned before. The young boy, what was his name? Bertrude.
That was a good joke. That
was funny. That was funny. But his character, I mean, the amount of times I've seen the social media kid, kind of deal. That instantly I was like, okay. Well, he probably has about 5 lines in the entire film as well, that guy.
It's true.
The mum has something to her.
Yeah. I had a weird thought about Bert. Like, in terms of the problem of this film swinging hard to try and warm your cockles and get your heart all swollen with the magic of Christmas. I kind of thought the film was cheating by having Santa deal sort of exclusively with, for heaven's sake, she's like the main character. What's her name? Gertrude?
Gertrude, yeah.
Trudy. Yeah, there we go. An ongoing thing, Fox. I can never remember anyone's name. I will go through a whole review referring to people as protagonist and protagonist assistant. But yeah, Trudy, it's like it's taking it a little too easy. I might go off on one here, so forgive me, but there's an interesting thing if you want to be weird like me and you want to try and add a bit of meat onto this, because I think there's some meat you can get into. I really liked Santa being disturbed by what Christmas has become. I really loved him looking with scorn at Amazon boxes under the tree.
Yeah, I think that was a really, really good idea.
Yeah, that was like that's some actual meat on the bone of this. It's worth doing. Like, yeah, would Santa not be worn down here? So they get him mostly interacting with Trudy, which is lovely. They carry that. They've got good chemistry. But I almost feel like what should how can I say this? Santa's like basically brought back by Trudy, but Trudy never had any doubt. I think you need Santa to change his mind based on Bert. Like, if he could have some interaction with Bert that could change both of them, that could actually justify it a bit more. I don't know if that makes sense there.
I think you're right with that. I think that them going with Trudy, although she's a lovely character and stuff, I think they are taking the easy way out. Easy way out of that, because I feel like there could have been a bit more, conflict or tension if she was a kid that's kind of more like Bert, or if they just did it with Bert instead, for example. Because to be honest, I mean, there's always been these ideas of like kids are spoiled and stuff, and but in the modern day, when he's just like, okay, what do we have in the bag? Video game, cash, video game. I feel like this is, a more of a. I don't really know if kids get toys anymore because I'm not one, but I do know that kids get a lot of video games these days, and I do know that they're. I think that what you're saying about having a kid that's maybe a bit more, maybe not on the good list, maybe kind of could go either way, would have been more of a. I guess it would have been braver. It would have been less easy, less going for like the easy option, and maybe they just wanted to go for the easy option because it is that kind of movie.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make it, as engaging, I think.
Yeah, you made that sound a lot more coherent than I delivered it. I think, yeah, it's that challenge. We break it down. We look at the story. The story is Santa is disillusioned. He thinks basically kids are little rapscallions these days. So they're ungrateful little blighters. And yeah, he meets Trudy, but he's always dealt with the Trudys. The person who should change his mind is Bert, who is one of those ungrateful, spoiled, rotten Zoomers. Like, getting to actually know them, having a confrontation, clashing, exchanging ideas, and from that interaction, changing. That should be kind of the core of the story. And also it would, it would fill the story out because, you kind of want to. The plot is very, very basic, so you have time to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think this film being an hour 50 was a bit generous. I feel like they could have definitely gotten some more, meat on the bones when talking about, consumerism and what modern children are like. I think at the very start he said they're like kind of like junkies, where they always just want the next, they open a toy and then 5 minutes later it's like, okay, let's have another one. Where I think that is an interesting route to explore, but I don't think it really ever is, because a character like Bert only gets 5 minutes, and Trudy, as sweet as she is kind of just that. She is kind of just the sweet, innocent child that believes in Santa. And it's a good motivation for him to, it's an easy way for him to come back, but it's not taking any risks. It's not delving into anything deep or meaningful or any real themes, I don't think. But I think for a film like this, you always just have to ask, does it need to, because it would always be nice if it could. But will it? No.
I'll say, if it's going to be, what is actually, it's 112 minutes, so it's nearly 2 hours. Yeah, 1 hour 50, as you said. If you're going to be 1 hour 50 long, then I think you should put some meat on the bone story-wise, and you should build on it. You don't have to be shallow as a horror comedy. You've mentioned Edgar Wright a fair bit. And you know, all his films have deep stuff and deep discussion in them, while still being really funny. So you can do it, but if you're not going to do that, get yourself down to 88 minutes, darn it. Have the decency to make like Hatchet or Hatchet 2 or any of the Italian giallos we've been covering that don't even go over 90 minutes. You know.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I think you've got the option, really. Like, I don't know. I don't think this warranted having 112 minutes. Was it? It didn't exactly need it, really, because at the end of the day, I'm just wondering for 1 hour 12 minute movie, basically everyone minus Santa was kind of left underdeveloped. I mean, or if there was development, it was kind of shoehorned in. Like the parents, their chemistry. I mean, the in-laws, just forget about them because
they're just grotesques, as we would say in theatre. They are grotesques. They are there to disgust the audience, to be extreme, unrealistic characters. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it warranted that much time. And even now that I'm thinking about it, I remember there was a lot of time between the second fight in the basement, and then after that it was just like maybe even like half an hour or something. I feel like, I mean, I don't know the timings of this movie, but I feel like it was probably about half an hour before this big kind of Santa spree that happened. I'm just wondering what happened in that half an hour. That's
not much that needed to stay in. Like, there was a lot of stuff was kind of killing time. Like, we could go through, especially the scenes where everyone else is hostage, and you would just ask the basic question of, why are you not torturing them for information? Because they'll be like, hey, we're going to take a logical step, and then someone will do something like shouty or distracty, or sort of dangle some shiny keys in front of their eyes, and then they just sort of don't take the logical action, and then you move on. So there's a lot of time being killed in the scenes where everyone's just being held hostage in the living room. And I think the film hopes you don't notice.
Yeah.
I'll also say something else I hope you don't notice is I'm going to give a massive spoiler for a bit of a plot twist about the dad.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole reason this is happening, by the way, folks, is that this is a very rich family, and they've got $300 million of money that was meant to help smooth international oil transactions. Quite an on-point message. Impressive. Well, different to just the usual reason they would have the money. Quite clever. But the thieves, when they finally get into the vault, find it's empty, and then you later find out, actually, the dad took it out, and he was going to leg it. I was like, okay, that's interesting, plot twist. There is no way that one dude managed to transport the sheer, like, guys, we're talking easily a caravan full of money, right? It's like, there is no way this guy got that out. Not a chance.
That's something I did not notice, but you're completely right. You are completely right that he was able to. I mean, I'm thinking he might be able to take. I don't even know how much money was in those bags, but I've got to assume they were very heavy. I think it would take him, like, maybe at a stretch he could carry 2, because he does not seem. I mean, in the film, he is not made out to be this this John McClane. That was it. He's not John McClane. You know, he needs Santa to come and save the day. He doesn't. I don't think he gets a single kill. He's just kind of like thrown over the hay bales whilst his wife is doing all the work at times. How he gets it past the security, how
exactly,
he gets it, even just physically, you are completely right in saying that. I have no clue how that happens.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you're just like, hang on, I'll give you another hang on. Oh, I won't say hang on again because that's probably awful for people. Sorry. I'll give you another one of those moments. It's the old fridge logic. We're saying there is no way this should be 1 hour 52 minutes. They obviously cut out a lot, right? And I noticed we have this kind of fun scene. It's very much like Under Siege, even though they only reference Die Hard. You see lots of henchmen, and they're not just like masked bad guys. Like they're all given a little bit of personality. They're given, roles and code names.
Yeah.
And there's about 3 or 4 of them that just disappear and we don't see them again. The one that sticks in my mind for absolutely innocent reasons is the one called Sugar Plum Fairy, who is our hacker.
Oh yeah, of course. Now that you say it, I am remembering a few of them. That completely. Yeah, I have forgotten about it, but you're right in saying that as well. I remember a few of them that were named. The only ones that really we saw were the kind of Home Alone duo and Krampus. Those are the only 3 that really get, apart from obviously John Leguizamo's Scrooge. Then those 3 henchmen are, but they probably got, if I remember right, maybe 6 or 7 of them, I think. But I guess 2 of them do get axed earlier. Even still, you're right in saying that. I remember there was 1 or 2 Sugar Plum Fairies. Definitely, that's triggered a memory.
They missed her out. It's going to be a deleted scene somewhere for a few of them. I just thought, where'd they go? By the way, thanks so much, man. I love seeing that. That's great. And that crime guy is doing a great service, folks. He did drop a new video. We didn't even do our own shilling, but we'll shill TCG. He dropped his video about the chap who robbed a pizza parlor with a bomb.
I know this. I know the was it I've encountered this story before.
So go to that crime guy's channel, check that out, folks. TCG would be here tonight, but he can't be. But we will do his shilling for him. The guy is a smooth shiller. It's amazing. I'm sorry. I'll move that on Mr. GB. I see what you mean. Let's see what else. The trouble is, I would usually have. You're not going to like this. I'm going to get something even worse up. Usually I would just have screen caps throughout the film, but I can't do it. I just don't have the screen caps for this. I'll throw something else out there, like in terms of we're doing kind of random things that I may be being entirely unrealistic, asking for.
Yeah.
I kind of thought there was a missed potential. So there was a scene where all the 3 characters we have on screen, and this is, folks, this is talking about how you could put a bit of meat on the bones of this film.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to talk about as well.
Oh, okay. I'm interested. So it's a scene where you've got to do it. You've got to test the premise. Do they believe that he is Santa? They've captured him. They've tied him up with fairy lights. He can't escape. They don't believe he's Santa. He's going to try and prove it. That's interesting. And there's an interesting moment. Fox, you're going to have a really sensible complaint or sensible observation.
Okay.
I'm going to be weird. He names them all. He knows all their names, even though they've only talked with aliases. And the guy on the left there, looking like in shape Charles Dance, is Bjorn. He's got a Swedish name or a Nordic name or a Finnish name. Apologies to anyone Scandinavian. But he's a Bjorn. And there's a big reference to all the different international names Santa has. But Bjorn is convinced that he's Santa after, he proves himself. Bjorn sees him disappear up the chimney magically and the other 2 don't. And I just thought this was a missed opportunity. Like, if you are Scandinavian and you now believe this guy is Santa, this is a perfect chance to elaborate on the backstory. Like, we see some flashbacks that he was originally, a warrior of some kind. I just thought that was a chance, like, Bjorn could elaborate on the sort of darker Santa myths that there are out there and flesh the character out, sort of build a bit of dread and drop some exposition in a cool way.
That's something I hadn't even considered that either. But
I told you, you'd have a sensible observation.
I mean, I was thinking for that scene, in my mind, I was just thinking that John Leguizamo's character is just more, if anything, is less believable, that he'd still be like, oh, there's no way, Santa, after seeing all that he did, going, you fools! After seeing, after he specifically name drops all of you, and he gets all of this information right, still going, no, there's no way, is, to me, less believable. That was what I was thinking. And obviously for you were tying the dots between, I think Santa was meant to be some sort of Viking. He was meant to be some sort of Viking. And Bjorn, obviously, being Nordic, I think that would have been a good idea. But I guess he was just kind of meant to be a bit of a stooge, which is a shame, because I feel like, to be honest, actually, this is the weird thing, is I actually find all of the Stooges more fun, and like I would have wanted to delve into how did Bjorn get to where he is now, or how did I forget the woman's name, but what about her? How did they get to where they are now, instead of like the the step family, or the in-laws, or like anyone else really? I just felt as if the goons were quite funny. What happened to Krampus to make him join this evil syndicate? How does John Leguizamo, how does Scrooge know all of this information, all of this insider information, which is never, I think that's never brought up. He says he's got
his research. He's just done his research,
Well, I guess he probably does, because these people were working at the mansion, weren't they? Beforehand. So, but yeah, how did they get their jobs there? They're quite fortunate to all get employed. Usually I feel like you'd only have one mole, but they seem to have had at least 3 or 4, maybe even 5 or 6.
Oh, I think they drop a line to say they pretended to be a catering company and got in that way.
Oh, of course, yeah. And
I thought that was nicely done,
Yeah.
Mima, waifu is away tonight. I do not have her company, so as we said, TCG is not streaming until the new year, so she's not there. But she did see this with me, and I think enjoyed it, and had many of the same complaints that I did. But overall, she enjoyed it as well. She sort of forgave me for dragging her to this. She's seen a lot worse, basically.
Yeah, I think there is a lot worse than this. That's the thing, is it's kind of hard to get very happy or sad about it. But I do think you're right about Santa is international, and he does have he's got different names and different stories depending on where you are in the world. I feel like that would have been maybe a cool little thing to at least explore a bit more than they did. Santa can be a bit evil
meat
sometimes.
On the bones. We want meat on the bones, darn
Exactly.
it. Fez, Krampus is so in Nordic countries, he's like the darker version, of Santa. So separate, but he would go around punishing bad kids. If you want to see a couple of films around Krampus, there is one from 2015 called Krampus. Don't recommend it. Didn't enjoy it. But there are 2 interesting versions. One is, and I have mentioned these before, Inside Number 9's Christmas episode called The Devil of Christmas deals with Krampus, and the very underrated A Christmas Horror Story, I want to say also from 2015, has a section on Krampus and a really cool looking Krampus. So highly recommended. So I hope that helps. Sorry, Krampus derailment there. Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm just going to check my other notes if there's any. Oh, one other thing that there were two things I wanted to discuss. One of them is very quick, which is that I don't know if you had the same thought I did, but I really, really expected Mrs. Claus to turn up.
Me too.
Excellent.
I think I touched on it earlier where I thought it was just a bit weird that her entire contribution to the film was a written note. So there is never a Mrs. Claus. She's never casted, despite the fact that Santa references her many times, that she is like, oh, what's your one wish, Santa? Oh, I want to see Mrs. Claus again.
Yeah, it's his wish.
Bride. It would have been nice at the very end. I'll tell you what would have been a nicer ending than kind of what they had is if Mrs. Claus rocks up on the sleigh with all the reindeer and stuff that come back. That would have been quite nice.
Imagine if she had turned up and given him the Christmas magic healing and then mocked them for doing schmaltzy holiday special nonsense that won't help.
Would have been very, very fun. That would have been a lot better.
I was so waifu and I were doing like fan casting, coming away like, how good would it have been if Mrs. Claus rocks up and it's like Linda Hamilton or Jessica Walters or Jamie Lee Curtis or someone like that. Just some kind of someone who'd or what's her name, Barbara Crampton. So someone that horror fans. I hope I've got that wrong. Again, I'm horrible with names, but someone that horror fans would just absolutely delight in seeing. Someone like that who'd just be a complete treat, like Sigourney Weaver at the end of Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, of course.
I feel
like Mrs. Claus is horribly I think she's horribly overlooked in media because I don't know anything about her. I feel like this might just be a bit off topic, but I feel like there could be a movie in the future, especially in the modern day where we're looking for like female leads and stuff in films and stuff a lot more than perhaps in the past. I feel like there's a character in Mrs. Claus that because she's just married to Santa, that's all like her job is. I feel like in the future I'd like to see a movie with Mrs. Claus.
If you're a writer today, that's actually a golden opportunity. One, studios will throw money at you to do that, and two, the other thing is Mrs. Claus is largely a blank slate, so you can do what you want.
Exactly.
And although there's a lot on Santa, and look how much fun and leeway they had in this film. Golden opportunity. Maybe we're literally joking. Like maybe the sequel is this Santa and Mrs. Claus versus Krampus or something.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shout. John Gorris, yes. Helen Mirren. That would be so good. Helen Mirren or Judi Dench.
I'd
be over the moon.
Mrs. Claus should have made an appearance at the very end.
Because it doesn't make sense to me. Like she sends back his hammer and it's like, well, cheers, love.
She can't be asked to go for that, right?
Yeah. Oh dear. It's a weird moment, but then I almost think that there was probably a lot of rewriting on the ending.
Yeah.
Just that Mrs. Claus thing doesn't hang in, and it's such a radical swerve in tone.
There is something about those last 20 minutes where I feel like either it wasn't written enough or it was overwritten or something, because those last not even 20 minutes, like after the kind of what do you call the worst part of the film where like everything
the nadir.
The what do you call it?
Nadir. So typically the lowest point for the character.
Yeah. I feel like that after that, between that and then like the denouement, there's just something else that needed to happen. They needed to go different routes. And I think that Mrs. Claus should have made an appearance at the very end.
Would it surprise you that the writers of this film, they started off in early 2000s National Lampoon movies. They also wrote Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Was that the ones that recently released?
Yeah. The ones from 2020 and 2022. Yeah, it's Patrick Casey, interesting name, and Josh Miller.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I've seen the first Sonic the Hedgehog, and that one also. It also, I remember, if I can remember it correctly, there were a lot of things that I thought were actually very intelligent in that movie, and there were a lot of things that I thought were just horribly stupid. So I kind of, it doesn't exactly surprise me. Yeah, both of them are also quite hokey and quite cheesy and winking to the audience and taking a character that you are familiar with and maybe doing something a bit different with them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I like your reading that actually, yeah, that would be a decent match, actually. Sometimes the writer does make sense. You're like, oh, yeah, I can see that. There's someone I was... See, I've got to keep this quiet because it's for the Christmas special, but I do talk about it. It's a director who's done writing on one of my favorite films of all time, an Oscar-winning amazing film. Also wrote something terrible enough that I'm doing it for the Christmas special. And it absolutely blew me away, but I won't be enigmatic about that. There's one other thing I just wanted to get your opinion on, which was something that's built up a lot is a massive fight in the, I guess you would say a work stable, where Santa gets to unleash, he gets his warrior spirit back.
Yeah.
And he just goes to town on usually about 4 henchmen at a time.
Yeah.
What did you think of that scene?
I thought the music, I didn't understand the music for that scene. I really didn't understand. Like, I was watching it and I was like, what's going on with the music here? I think it was just too, I don't know, like, I wasn't digging the music, but in terms of the actual action itself, that was a brutal scene. There was a couple, I remember the guy that kind of got, like, cut off. He wasn't exactly, I think it was, like, shoulders up, so it wasn't exactly decapitation, I don't think, but it's kind of like body just fell off him. And, like, people falling into, like, meat grinders and stuff, and I mean, that was, especially brutal, where I think that was one of those scenes where I personally feel like that's a writer's, like, dream, is to just look at it and say, okay, we're going to have this scene with a bunch of kills and stuff. How do we make these as kind of in topic? How do we work Christmas into these kills? And I, like, personally, for me, I did a screenwriting course when I was at university, and that was always when we were doing horror. We did a horror week, and my professor was saying, a lot of horror is based upon the setting and where you are. What kind of weapons are you going to have to use when you're in a field, or when you're in a kitchen, or, say, for this one, a barn? And I do think throughout the film, especially in that scene, I think Santa goes manic with the old sharpened candy cane. He's chewing on that. I was like, what's going on here? And then, he takes it out, it's razor sharp, and he just starts going for it. So, definitely some of the more creative kills in the film are in that scene, and it's definitely, I think that's the set piece, isn't it? Is that every film needs, like, a set piece. At least every action film needs that scene where everyone goes, oh, of course, that scene. And generally I thought it was quite fun. Like, just general, it's nothing I haven't exactly seen before, but when you put it into a Christmas mode, you get those sharpened candy canes, and you get, Christmas lights to strangle people, and tinsel to use, Generally, I thought it was just, quite fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was definitely aiming to be the centerpiece. I mean, if we're talking screenwriting, and you'll know this better than me, and we have filth bots in the chat. Well, hey, all right, good. So, mods, get on it. Okay, it's definitely aiming to be the centerpiece, and it was a smart move to do, like we talked about, vary it, break it up, go into different locations. We said a lot on the channel that lots of horror is basically the same stuff happening over and over again. It's the same ingredients. It's like a cocktail, You're making an old fashioned, you're going to have bitters, you're going to have bourbon, you're going to have some sugar syrup. And those are the same ingredients every time. And it's what you do with the variation in those ingredients that makes it an A++ cocktail or something you wouldn't want to finish, So originality isn't necessarily something we'd pick out, but it's how you use the same basic ingredients over and over again. And so doing things like changing location for a bit of visual interest, using Christmas themed weapons, brilliant. And so that worked here. Stuff like using the candy canes, tying someone up with fairy lights and then throwing them into a wood chipper.
Christmas star as well, of course. And I thought the sack,
yes.
I kind of wish it was utilized more, because I feel like it would have been quite fun. Obviously they do it in the basement fight, but I feel like using the sack, kind of pulling out anything and seeing what there is. But I guess they also did make it very obvious that the only thing that Santa's going to be pulling out is video games and gift cards.
Again, one of the moments of great satire. So yeah, I think they were going for that. It was nice to switch it up and as well as make Santa competent and show him in berserker mode.
Yeah,
I think I'd probably come down a little bit harsher when I say this was aiming to be the big centerpiece, and I don't set piece rather, and I don't think it quite clinched it. I'll say that's probably because of a little bit of plot armor, basically. They very wisely don't make Santa immortal, just a magical being who can't be hurt. Very sensible. They didn't do that, but then they have him go up against guns, and just the guns are never used when they would be. It's kind of like your classic action thing.
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing to do. And I would say some of the editing didn't really work for me. To throw a slightly weird one out there, it's like, any fans of Repo the Genetic Opera here? I think there'll probably be one or two in the chat who know what I'm talking about.
Surprisingly not me. I've never heard those words uttered.
Okay, so it's a cult musical with a horror Cronenbergian themes, and they made a film of it with Anthony Stewart Head, Sarah Brightman of all people, and Paris Hilton. There's a scene where Anthony Stewart Head gets to go and be like a super. I'm trying not to swear. Being a competent, super masculine, fighty guy, and he goes through some. There it is. Chat's got it. Going through corridors, beating up bodyguards or henchmen who go for him, but they very clearly only had money for 3 henchmen. So they frame it in a way that he's always twisting and turning, and it's like he kills 3 henchmen, moves on, and then there's an edit, and then another couple of henchmen go for him, and it's like, this is obviously the same 3 guys over and over again. And I think that was what was happening in this barn scene.
Actually, no, I'll tell you what, I now that I think about it, because I remember when I saw the kind of troopers that were lined up, I maybe remember counting 9 of them, maybe. And like, as you know, something I really can't stand in a movie is when, like, say numbers, for example, are not consistent, because there were way more. There were just way more throughout the film. Like, after that, at least the initial shot of them, there was always just a couple popping up here and there.
Yeah, I counted like consistently 4 on screen, never using their guns. This is a standard movie thing. Like, all the henchmen have machine guns and they will never use them. So I think some of the editing let it down a bit. By the way, Prof Strangefinger, that is an absolutely amazing cat, and I applaud you for that. That's an amazing cat. Thank you. Yes, I will stop a stream if a cat is good enough. I've seen quite a few of you. Yeah, the people I suspected. Yeah, I knew you guys had known Repo the Genetic Opera. And John Gorris, absolutely, there was some weaponized coal. they use every Christmas weapon they could, in a kind of creative Ray Winston in Scum homage. Oh wait, was it called? No, it was Fox. I'm not remembering. Did Santa put coal in a sock and use it to beat someone?
No, it was snooker balls.
It was snooker balls. Okay,
Yeah,
no.
a little pool table in the. It was a pool table in the basement, and he used the snooker ball, the pool balls. But I thought it was a bit weird that no one ever reached for the cue. I feel like that's what I'd probably do first and foremost was would reach for the cue and get a little bit of distance. But I guess the pool balls kind of worked out a bit better.
Yeah. It was creative. I had a minor. You always have this problem, don't you, in a film, like how realistic is the violence? Because I thought occasionally you'd get like the Home Alone experience where the full violence realism occurred. And then occasionally you got things like that someone smacked in the head with the snooker balls in a sock or whacked in the chest with the sledgehammer. And I thought, no, you are done. You are out of the camp now. And they keep going. Yeah. Oh, snooker ball. Maverick, come on, please. We're British. Please. We're saying things correctly. It's the rest of the world that's gone astray. Don't worry about where our spelling came from. Don't worry about it. Minor issue. Yes, a snooker ball. I guess you would say a pool ball.
Yeah.
Or a billiards ball.
Billiards, yeah.
Yeah, I did just think like one hit with that and you're done. So, that's all I kind of wanted to bring. We got some really creative kills, and they really did cram in every Christmas-related kill in there. I'm sure they threw some coal at someone. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that happened as well. I definitely remember Cole a couple of times coming up.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird. I saw it Monday. I should be able to remember. But yeah, I think it was that editing stopped it being the kind of amazing Old Boy or Brain Dead style set piece that it could have been.
Yeah.
But then the director, how can I say? This does feel like it was quite a step up for the director, who's Tommy Wirkola, who people probably know best for Dead Snow and Dead Snow 2.
I have not seen any of this guy's stuff.
Okay. So Dead Snow is a Nazi zombie movie. Quite fun, interesting gore. And then the sequel is Red v. Dead. So you have Nazi zombies and communist zombies, because it's, apologies, Scandinavians. It's Norway or Finland. I want to say Norway. I'll apologise and I'll check, because I know I should get that right. Hang on. Norwegian. There we go. So it was popular enough to get a sequel, and now he's got the money to come in and do a Hollywood movie. We do the Guinness notes at the start. To be honest, it's probably the easiest Guinness challenge we've ever had. How did you say it, Fox? Like,
I think I described it as Die Hard with Santa. Die Hard with Santa instead of John McClane is basically it, and it steers more into to the Christmas. Obviously, there's that age-old debate of whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. This is it. I think this is what people think of when they say Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, we're in full spoiler mode. You're hearing the full spoilers, but to be very honest with you, this is a horror comedy that keeps it very light, and it's very open about the films that it is taking from. It specifically name drops Home Alone and Die Hard, so you are at no point surprised about what's happening. It's all, to reuse my cocktail analogy, it's all about what it does with those ingredients that are going to be in there. So, yeah, it's hard to spoil this one, to be honest. It does exactly what you expect it to. All right, fantastic. So, you know, bit of a step up for the director, and maybe you can't blame him. Maybe there were some budget difficulties. This is relatively low budget. It's 20 million US dollars. So
That's not too bad, to be fair. It does have a very strong production value, I'd say.
yeah, I think you get a lot of money out. You get your money's worth, and I think the best thing they did was cast the right people.
Yeah,
As we said, David Harbour and John Leguizamo just carry the film, really. I was going to look. Yeah, I was looking for who the editor was. I've got Jim Page, and I can't find anything else that he's done. So I'm not sure about that. And it could be the editing, but maybe it's also sometimes you just don't have the money, and the editor has to hide things. So I don't think we really know with this one, but some bits of it. And there's another thing, is possibly they did have to edit down a little bit to stay out of NC-17 territory, which I think they're probably verging on a fair amount.
Yeah.
Well, that's about everything I had to say on Violent Night. You know, for a film that I saw largely because of the pun and the fact that the trailer referenced Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, I was pretty darn happy with what I got, to be honest. It's 15 minutes too long for what it does, but, you know, I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I think there wasn't really too much wrong with it, apart from those maybe last 15 minutes. But for the majority, it was just a fun popcorn flick. And I can at the very least, if I'm going to watch a popcorn flick, it might as well be something that is quote unquote like original, like this is, where it's not a sequel and it's not a franchise. It is just, you know, a fun. Put me in the Christmas mood. You know, it is what it is, and it's not too much more, but it is a fun time, I would say.
Yeah, I would go for that. Yeah, they need to. The director's cut needs to make it shorter, and then I think this could absolutely be a cult Christmas film. I could see it. Oh no, I had a good time with it. I'm out. I struggle to talk about horror comedies because my natural instinct is to try and find deep meanings and messages in things. So when something's very much on the surface, I do sometimes struggle to talk about. Plus, it's sort of, you know, late week being knackered to let you know. All right. Well, with all that said, I suppose we're probably pretty much covered. So at this point, we'll just do. I'd invite you to give your closing thoughts, and traditionally the score that we do is out of 12 burgers for reasons lost to the depth of time. So if you want to think about the score you'd like to give, chat. I know most of you haven't seen this movie, so don't worry about it. Usually chat would be giving their ratings as well. But would you feel ready to give closing thoughts and score?
Okay. So I would say, I mean, how analytical do you want me to be with this? These closing remarks.
Go for it. Yeah, okay. Like your 1 minute closing summary.
So overall, I found Violent Night to be a fun, enjoyable, stress-free time. I think it was very creative with some of its kills, which is what you want to have for a film like this. And it obviously has some influences which it very vividly references. It's a fun little concept to see Santa portrayed in this light, where he is, you know, traditionally perhaps in horror, in Christmas horrors, the bad guy, but seeing him as a John McClane-esque character is quite unique. It's something I've not seen. Definitely David Harbour does a good job portraying this character, as well as John Leguizamo, who portrays the antagonist Scrooge. But for as fun and perhaps mind-numbing as this film is, there isn't too much beneath the surface, and I think it would have been nice just to go that bit deeper and talk about perhaps some themes that they do touch on very lightly, such as kids these days and how they view Christmas, and maybe even capitalism and consumerism, that would have been a bit more fun, or at least more deep and meaningful for me personally. It doesn't need to be as long as it is, but for as long as it is, up until those last 10 to 15 minutes, it is quite enjoyable. I think that's it. I think it's a good time. Definitely, I would recommend having maybe a beer or a glass of wine when you're watching it, because I feel like that might elevate the situation. But in terms of a score out of 12 burgers, I would maybe give it 7. I think 7 out of 12 burgers is a fair score.
Nice. Yeah, I could go with that.
What would you give it?
Well, yeah, lots of concurring with everything you said. I would say it needs your I view it as sort of faced with the dilemma. You either go really, you aim for just pure horror comedy, without any commentary, and you should shorten it down to like 88 minutes, and that'd be fine. Or you do the full, like take your 2 hours and go Edgar Wright mode, build in some really interesting themes, really interesting comedy, flesh out a few more of the characters, and really deal with that very interesting idea of, an actual traditional Santa, a Santa who here actually goes back to the Viking era, being faced with modern society, modernity, kids these days, gosh darn it, get off my lawn, and like go deep on that and do something interesting. This film takes a weird middle ground, which is a bit disappointing. So, but then again, the trailer did promise pretty much what it delivered. Yeah, we got interesting kills. They got basically every Christmas kill they could get in there. It was creative. I'd probably say it swore a bit too much for me, but I am out of, I know I'm not typical in my sensibilities, but I found it's a bit too sweary for me. But the gore was very nicely delivered. It's very nicely shot, great performances. It had potential to be something very strong. And it was nice to see Santa be the hero and not have a lunatic Santa. But because it didn't fully deliver on the premise, I think I put it, yeah, I think 7's probably about right. If you're in the mood for it, if you want something lighthearted, schlocky, you want to enjoy a beer with it, maybe drink every time someone says naughty, you would have a much better, yeah. We like a drinking game. We're classy, but we do like a drinking game. Do you ever play the mustache game, Fox?
I have never. What's that? Is it just drink every time someone with a mustache comes on screen?
Oh, no, it's far worse. Okay, chat, I'm going to open this up for you. You can try this if you want to. This works for any film, by the way. You get a fake mustache, or you make one, okay?
I know this is.
Yeah,
I know what this is. You put it on the screen.
Yeah, you put it on the screen, and anytime someone fits the mustache, you drink. And I think some rules are you drink double for women, children, and animals. And if someone with a mustache fits the mustache, you finish the drink.
Oh, okay. I'll have to try that at some point.
I've done it. I had a really good time doing that with Evil Dead 2. All the times when Bruce Campbell's running away, looking over his shoulder, he was looking at the mustache, and it was like it was chasing him.
Yeah.
Good times. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think 7's fair, to be honest. If you're in the mood for it, if you really want to see a Christmas horror movie, I'm afraid there is a lot of terrible ones where the joke kind of wears off after about 20 minutes and you're just kind of bored. This doesn't do that. So, Joe, unironically, I think a Tooth Fairy horror movie could be amazing. Can you imagine? Something annoys him, and then you have a scene of, he's in the kid's bedroom pulling the teeth out. That'd be horrific. That'd be nightmarish. That's got great potential. Unfortunately, I can only think of one film that involved the horror film with the tooth, well, two. And one is only tangential. There's obviously Manhunter, which wasn't about the actual Tooth Fairy, and there's an Australian horror called Darkness Falls. So underexplored territory. Okay. Well, I think that would be pretty much everything. I realise, I'm sorry, Fox, I didn't actually get you to introduce your channel at all. Would you like to just tell people about the stuff you typically cover?
Oh yeah, okay. So
I should have done this at the start. I'm very sorry.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So my name on YouTube is Fox Akimbo. I cover a wide range of things. I do a lot of iceberg charts, if you know what they are. More recently, I've been delving into social media controversies and bannings, and I cover a bit of horror stories. I tell a few horror stories from time to time, and also just kind of a lot of stuff. But if you're into just classic, a little bit of true crime here and there sprinkled throughout, but if you like kind of dark stories or a little bit of the macabre, I definitely do touch on it in a bit of, kind of like this movie, in a fun kind of way where I try to mix horror and comedy a little bit. I just tell stories about some interesting, potentially morbid or dark things that have happened from time to time, and I'll usually split them up into maybe 10 or so stories in a video. But yeah, come to my channel if that might interest you, Fox Akimbo.
Yeah, I liked your fast food horror stories.
Yeah.
And when I say liked, it made me feel ill, you know. Quick question from Mr. GB there.
No, it is not a reference to Legal Gentleman Fox. Fox Akimbo is, I do not like my username, but it's the one I'm kind of stuck with. It was a bit of an inside joke when I was at university. At least the fox came from the fact there's a lot of foxes in England. And one time when I was coming home from a night out, I drunkenly thought I could take a fox in a fight. Not that I actually tried anything, but I was telling my friends, like, if push came to shove, I could beat up a fox. And that kind of became a bit of a running joke. And then the Akimbo was just like random name generator kind of. So I was like, okay, that kind of works. Fox Akimbo. Okay, let's do that.
That's very zoom.
I wish I had a fun reference or something to say, but alas, it's just a random name.
Oh, bless. All right. Mogu, always the right question. The link is in the description to the video, and you can find Fox's channel there. Yeah, a wide variety of, I'd say generally internet culture, deep dives, but there's a whole breadth of things. And if I may say, delivered very well. You have concision down in a way that I do not at all.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the shills here, I sent something out to channel members. And by the way, shill memberships, you can support the channel on YouTube, or you can support on Subscribestar. I know a few people have told that they've had trouble signing up on YouTube, so they've moved over to Subscribestar and it's worked. So if the links for that are in the description as well, if you want to support. I sent something out to supporters today. My Craft Legacy video, the basic footage is 2 hours long. I'm dying. It's going to take ages. So Craft Legacy video might actually come out in the new year, unless I can just plow through it. But if you don't make these videos, part of the problem is I have to do so much work editing to get around the copyright claims, even though I am well within my rights to use minimal footage for fair use commentary. But unfortunately, the algorithm and the system does not agree. There's a lot of work going into that one, and otherwise work on the Christmas specials continue. So the other thing I have to say at this point, absolutely, horror homework, guys. I'm treating you. We did 3 weeks of very in-depth, deep symbolism, and so we're having a bit of fun. This week was fun. Violent Night. Next week, I'm giving you guys a massive treat. We're doing Tales from the Crypt's Demon Night. An absolute hoot. It is a cult film for a reason. It's absolutely joyous. If you haven't seen it, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, 1995. You will have a great time. And we got Shrouded Hand and Disturbin coming on to chat that, which should be a laugh. All right. I think that's everything. That is the horror homework. I hope you all have fantastic Fridays and fantastic starts to the weekend. Fox, absolute pleasure having you on, man.
Well, it's been a pleasure to do this. I haven't spoken about film like this for a long, long time, so I love talking about it. So thank you very much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. I cannot do the Jeremy Jones thing at all. I can't be quick, so that I go for the detail. I massively overanalyze even a movie like this. Yes, absolutely, the NREAB. That's what I stand by. That's a point of pride. And look, we even managed it in this one. Okay. No, really good. And honestly, like we've been chatting Hitchcock, and I was enjoying that. And then you referencing the old German expressionists. I'm genuinely. I hope it's not patronising, but I'm impressed.
Well, I think to be honest, finding many people that like, I guess maybe that are my age and stuff, like very early 20s, to know German expressionism is rare, I think, these days.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'll end the stream soon, but it's been something kind of nice. I've shown a lot of people, a lot of like people in early 20s. I've gone and shown them stuff from like before their parents were born. You know, I've gone for stuff from the 40s and 50s and 30s even. And it's just stuff like they've absolutely loved it. I've had such a good response. They really enjoyed the films, and it's just that they would never have thought to have watched it. You know?
Yeah.
So it's been a really nice experience, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Anyway, all right. Thank you again. I really enjoyed having you on. Thank you so much, chat. And I will end the stream now. So thanks, y'all.
Brilliant.
Cheers.